New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, he questioned the cut's effectiveness earlier this week. He says NYPD should be redesignated. Watch this.
NYPD. Change the NYPD. Change it. Well, we took money from them. But what does that do? The problem is bigger than that. The problem is worse than that. There is no respect and trust between the community and the police. That's what's going on. And if you don't have respect and trust, you have nothing.
Joining us now, Newsmax contributor and former Milwaukee County Sheriff, the Sheriff David Clarke. Sheriff, good to see you again. Thanks for coming on. What do you make of the governor's response to New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio?
Governor Cuomo is partially right. Excuse me. And that, you can't just do this with a law enforcement budget, with a public safety budget. Look, the first priority, the top priority of any governmental agency is to secure the personal safety of citizens. What they're proposing is buffoonery. It is not a public safety budget. What it is it's a political statement. And if these lunatics on the New York City Council go through with this, and if Mayor de Blasio actually signs this, he will be signing a death warrant for thousands of New Yorkers who depend on the NYPD on a daily basis to give them some sort of a semblance of a quality of life. And they stand as the wall, law enforcement, between the overwhelming majority of law-abiding people in these crime-ridden neighborhoods and the vicious criminal element. This will be interesting. We could probably use this as a case study. I'm glad I don't live in New York because this is going to be a disaster.
Yeah, I spoke with a detective earlier, and he cited exactly what you're saying, is that some of these neighborhoods are going to be hit really hard. You're not going to see this till now, if you will. It's being called a lagging indicator, and we'll see that. This, police officers in New York City and really around the country, they're deciding to leave the force because of the current climate. And we talked about hiring freezes and canceling the July Police Academy class. What impact, Sheriff, does this have on recruitment and really getting people interested and enthused, if you will, about joining the police force?
Well, it's hurting recruiting efforts, but more important than that, I believe at this point in time, is the mental stress on law enforcement officers all across the country. They're working 12, 16-hour shifts. They can't get a day off. This is taking a mental toll, PTSD, things like that, the stuff that we put law enforcement officers through on a daily basis. And then we expect them to, look, these people are not bionic. These people are human beings, and they're suffering from the stress of this daily, not just the beating, the war on cops, but the going back out there. And look, when they report to duty, here's what they're thinking. I can do one of two things today. These are my only choices. I can go and be killed in the line of duty or seriously injured, or I can defend myself and be charged with some sort of physical assault, or worse yet, a murder charge. I don't like those odds. I don't blame these law enforcement officers to reconsider the profession that they chose.
You've seen the public take things into their own hands. Case in point, the St. Louis couple that defended their home with an assault style rifle, I should say, the McCluskeys in St. Louis, and others wanting to defend themselves because the fear is real. Should the public be worried when we're seeing the defund the police movement spread and get bigger? As we see New York City already cutting $1 billion from the police force. There are other cities, LA's doing the same type of move and even more in some cases. Should the public be worried, frankly, Sheriff?
They should be very worried. Look, response times are going to shoot up. You call 911 for a serious charge or a serious incident, and you can't get a cop to respond in a timely fashion, and people are going to have to take responsibility to protect themselves and their family, but it's going to be magnified now when you can't get a cop to show up, when your car is surrounded by an angry mob, when your house is surrounded by an angry mob. You only have a few options, and you have very little time to, with which to decide what you're going to do. So I'm advising citizens, start thinking about this now. Have a plan. Think it through. What would I do if A, B, or C? Go through it in your head so that when that moment comes, you don't freak out and panic. You act.
I want to talk to you about Seattle's CHOP zone here. It's been dismantled. Mayor Jenny Durkin, she authorized police to clear the area earlier this week, as you know, after 2 teens were shot and killed. More were shot, but they were killed in the zone last month, and that's what it took. Well, the father of one of those teens, Lorenzo Sr, he gave a heartbreaking account, if you watched it, of what happened to his son the other night on Hannity. Watch this.
I haven't heard from the mayor. I haven't heard from the police department. I haven't from no city and nobody. They wouldn't even let me see my son that night. It took me a whole week before I can see my son.
And somebody need to come tell me something, because I still don't know nothing. And somebody need to come to my house and knock on my door and tell me something. But, you know, I don't know nothing. All I know is my son he got killed up there, and he's just a 19-year-old. No, that's Lorenzo Anderson. That's my son, you know, and I loved him. You know? And that was my son.
Sheriff, I'm going to play one more thing for you. Lorenzo Anderson Sr., he goes on to say the teen's father, that CHOP should have been taken down. It should have been taken down weeks ago. He wishes the police were there to help his son. Here's that.
Somebody should have helped my son. He needed help. He needed paramedics. He needed the police to come in. Somebody... Man, somebody was supposed to go in there and help my son.
It's hard to watch. It's emotional. It really tugs on your heartstrings. Sheriff, your reaction to that?
It rips your heart out. Look, like I said at the top of this, the first priority of any level of government is to secure the personal safety of citizens. Mayor Mary Poppins Durkin, that's what I call it, because she's clueless here as to what's going on. Neglected to do that. The City of Seattle Police Department neglected to secure the personal safety of citizens. That was an avoidable homicide had government fulfilled its duty, and they did not. That's why, as I said, people are realizing they may have to take the law into their own hands just to survive. But that thing should have been ended within the first 24 hours. First of all, the Seattle police should never have abandoned that precinct. That's a command post. That's where supplies are stored, law enforcement resources are deployed from a police precinct. I don't understand why they did that. They gave up right away and then let this thing go on for 2-3 weeks. It deteriorated over time. People had to get injured and killed before Mary Poppins Durkin decided, yes, I guess I better do the smart thing here and not the political thing, and brought that thing to an end.
Yeah, I think that summer of love comment is going to haunt that mayor for the rest of her life. It shouldn't have been said. It's horrible to see. Sheriff David Clarke joining us live with reaction. I appreciate your time, Sheriff. Happy 4th to you. Thanks so much for coming on.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel, now in 65 million homes. Get Newsmax TV on all the major cable systems or go to newsmaxtv.com and click on the Find Newsmax tab to locate us. Remember, Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.